أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ويل لكل همزة لمزة الذي جمع مالا وعدده يحسب أن ماله أخلده كلا لينبذن في الحطمة وما أدراك ما الحطمة نار الله الموقدة التي تطلع على الأفئدة إنها عليهم مؤصدة في عمد ممددة صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. I bear witness that no God is there without Allah. I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is the last, the final messenger of Allah, after whom no prophet, old or new, will come. And I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I have read from chapter 104 of the Quran, and I translate it as follows. How sad it is for every propagandist and bully who amasses a fortune and hoards it all. He or she figures that his or her prosperity will last him or her forever. Not at all. Definitely he or she will indeed be flung into the crushing oven. And what will make you know what is the crushing oven? The burning obsession ignited by Allah, which is an uncontrolled yearning of the human heart. For sure, it is around them an enclosure on stretched out props. Dear people, we live in a world in which much focus is placed upon wealth, possessions, material things of life. And that is necessary because we are material human beings. We have bodies, we have needs, and we need the material things. We need food to survive, we need air. All of these are material things. And they are material things that we need also, such as our beds to sleep on and shelter. So that there's nothing wrong with the desire that we have for the material things in life. What the Quran warns us about, or guides us about really, is that we must keep away from the bad usage of the material things. It's important to realize that much of the troubles of the world centers around the acquisition of wealth, material things. Why it is people commit crimes? They either want, they don't have and they want from others, not prepared to work. It's easier to go and rob or steal or kill, rob a bank, rob a store or grocery, whatever it may be. Or perhaps they want to kill to protect what they already have. So they make sure they have the necessary security to protect what they have, and in the process that may bring about certain crimes that are committed, not only killing people, but even in trying to get more, they may defraud the government or some other persons in price gouging and all of these things. So we live in a world which focuses a lot on materialism, the economic welfare of the world and of people of the world. We look at poverty and we look at so many issues. So the Quran, while it tells us about the acquisition of wealth, it gives us certain guidelines in the acquisition of wealth and especially in the usage of wealth. Now, the Quran points out to us that materialism, the acquisition of material things, can bring about loss. We think when we acquire things, we acquire a bigger salary, people acquire money through lottery or whatever means, gifts or handouts from government or grants or whatever it is, that it makes them certainly better off. But materialism can sometimes, and the acquisition of wealth can sometimes bring about loss. Except, the Quran tells us, if we can squeeze out the time to do good, to use that wealth to do good. And this is an expression I have been hearing ever since I was a child, that we must do khairat, we must do good. What in fact is good? What is the good that we must do? Is it just a kind word? Is it just to give a few pennies to a beggar or someone who stretches out their hand? What the Quran points out to us, however, is the attitude that people develop when they acquire wealth and they acquire much possessions, because it brings about loss in the sense that they end up doing, instead of doing good, they end up slandering people, they end up bullying and even defaming others. We see that not only in individuals. There are countries of the world who are considered to be the wealthy countries, but they will look down on other countries. They describe themselves as developed countries, and others are undeveloped and underdeveloped countries. Or they would say that our country is the greatest, and we need to get rid of the other country. That other country who is as an economic power is challenging us. We need to stop buying their goods. We need to put sanctions on certain countries. So they end up in some way trying to belittle others in order to establish their greatness. So the Quran wants us to understand that the love of material things becomes sometimes a burning obsession that takes over the heart, making it greedy and selfish. So it analyzes here the impact of the acquisition of wealth on the human heart and the human personality. Wealth can be good and wealth can be bad. This particular chapter is dealing with the bad effects of wealth. And there are other chapters that tell us about the good effect of wealth. So when the Quran says, وَيْلُلْ لِكُلِّ هُمَزَةٍ لُمَزَةٍ, these are two words, humaza, and humaza means bad talking in action behind somebody's back. So people don't know, but you are ill-speaking them or planning some kind of, a downfall or evil or saying bad things about them behind their back. Lumaza is really just the opposite. You give a person in front of their face. You give them some kind of cut eye, you bully them in words or actions or behavior. You nag them, you taunt them, you harass them, you even belittle them, you cast aspersions on them, making funny names and so on. You reproach them, you speak ill of their family, you bring up the past and so on. In other words, saying bad words in front of someone's face. So humaza is speaking ill behind one's back, and lumaza means speaking ill in front of someone's face. And very often people say, but I'm talking the truth. I'm not lying, I'm talking the truth. But what they really are doing is taking a part of the truth. They're twisting the truth and using that to bully people. And the Quran is therefore saying here, don't use part of truth to create discord among people, to belittle or bully. For example, people read in some of the writings of the founder of the Ahmadiyya movement, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, they see the word prophet. They don't understand in the context in which he has used it. They say he has claimed to be a prophet and therefore you are kafir. And it has gone more than that, not merely declaring and bullying a kafir, it has become where they break down masjids, they kill people in the name of the Prophet Muhammad. So Islam goes out of the window, obedience to the Prophet goes out of the window, mere honor of the Prophet's name justifies their behavior in a way by using one word kafir, which they don't even know, doesn't even mean disbeliever. The word kafir means one who is ungrateful. It is so used in the Quran. So that we live in a society in which there is emphasis on acquiring material resources for happiness. And not only the resources, people don't only work for money, but they want the things that wealth brings. They want to have expensive food, they want to have food first-class privileges, and they want to have nice houses and cars and the best and so on, in entertainment and everything. Nothing is wrong with all of these, except when it diverts us from other responsibilities, as the chapter before, 2 chapters before mentioned, Alhaakumut takasuru hatta zurtumul maqabir. This abundance and acquisition can divert you and actually bring you to ruin, bring you to a death. So abundance can bring you loss in character and values. That's the main loss, not so much the loss of the property, but what it does to yourself as a human being. Now, you may not have millions, you may not win the lottery, not be a billionaire, but all of us have resources. We have skills. We have ability to cook, we have ability to talk, we have ability to sing, we have ability to work, to put our labor. All of us have some kind of skill. We have knowledge and wisdom. And so, these things must be used to develop our character and personality, our soul. So material advancement is not progress when it leads to greed and loss of charitable human feelings. And that's why the Quran emphasizes, وَمِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ يُنْفِقُونَ. Remember, everything we have, our material possessions, our life itself, is given to us by Allah, by God. And the Quran says, spend out of what we have given you. So Allah has given us, we have to spend out of it. If we don't spend, we hoard. We keep for ourselves. And it's not so much, that hoarding can increase. You put money in the bank, you will get it a higher interest, you invest, so you will always get more. But what do you do with it? How does it impact upon your personality and character in using whatever you have? Mati, few people, I remember some years ago, a very popular singer who has passed away now, said, the reason why I sing so well is because I practice every day. The more you practice, whether it is in sports, football, the better you become. So there's an increase in wealth, not only in money, but in skills. The more you do something, the easier it becomes and the more perfect you become. And you become a good cricketer, a good bowler, a good footballer, whatever it may be. So material advancement is not progress when in fact it leads to greed and loss of charitable human beings. So when you use your skills to benefit others, when you use your possession to benefit others, that is what the Quran is recommending. But unfortunately, we live in a society in which sometimes the poor people are called lazy. You look down upon them. I have seen prominent people who have made statements like that. You find, for example, much of the world and United Nations and so on condemn what is called child labor. But there are some people, even in the Western world, who say, look, children get things too easy. They're always on the iPhone and they have the iPads and they have transport to school and everything. They don't know the hard life. So let them start work as janitors and sweepers and so on in the schools. Let them clean up the desks. In other words, they want to even introduce child labor because they think people are too lazy. We're not trying to find out there are other solutions as well which are more in conformity with the modern age in order to motivate people. So that while the poor may be called lazy, it is suggested as an economic solution in the Western countries to employ children as school janitors and sweepers to train them in working hard. That let them move from, of course, there are some people in the Western world who you will find in their history, they were used to shine shoes and then became multimillionaires and billionaires. Of course, there are exceptions and everything. There are people who are very wealthy, who are very charitable, they are philanthropists, they give money to a lot of cases. Countries of the world help out sometimes or so. But there is no common policy, and the aim of these things is not always the personality and character development. It is sometimes for tax purposes or for other reasons as well, or to influence people. You will find, for example, the International Monetary Fund, which gives loans to countries. If they don't, you have a policy or you pass a law which they don't like, they just stop giving you the loan. They just don't help you. So they're not doing it to help the people. They are doing it because they want certain policies to be introduced into a country, as laws, as the case may be. So the Quran does not condemn the enjoyment of life. The human being by nature is a seeker of betterment and benefit. to be better educated, to be richer, to be healthier. All of these things are encouraged by the Quran. The Quran does not stifle this aspect of human nature and its development. It encourages it. It encourages us to be healthy in the guidance it gives us with regards to eating and drinking and so on, what to eat, what to stay away from. It gives us guidance so far as our knowledge is concerned. Ikra bismi rabbika allazi, acquire knowledge, and it tells us how to treat each other, husbands and wife relationships. Many things are mentioned in the Quran which are focused on the development of human nature and human personality and character. So that the Quran does not condemn the human enjoyment of life, but it does state that in acquiring these things, in acquiring the things that makes us happy and enjoy life, we should be careful that we do not belittle others and bring down others. In other words, our greatness must not be at the expense of others. Because very often you see, people don't realize it, but when a person wins the lottery, what happens? The prize is determined by the amount of people buy. So you make 1,000 or 10,000 people poor because each buy a ticket and they lose to make one person rich. Where charity is just the opposite. You find that one person who is rich can give to several people. They give their zakat and that is distributed among so many people. And that's why the Quran speaks about, the difference between that kind of selfishness and charity. It points this out to us. So by being charitable and caring for others, we build the best in our character, and it is by belittling others that we disfigure and we spoil our personality and our character. So the message of the Quran is don't step over others, step down to help others. Step down to help others. Don't stand up above others and step over them, but step down to help them. So the message of this chapter is that we should think of our own progress and not how to bring about the downfall of others. Many people focus on that, how to bring about the downfall of others. There's a war right now in Europe in which one country is trying to bring about the downfall of another, or both countries are trying to bring about the downfall of each other, and think that is where their greatness will lie, their strength will lie. And billions are being spent on this and supported by other countries. No talk of peace. People are dying, they are suffering, not only in the fighting countries, but in other countries as well. But a lot of what is called spin, a lot of things are being stated, this side and that side, who is winning, who is losing, what is, today this one win, tomorrow, which one is killing so many people and destroying hospitals and schools and so on, but no talk of peace. No idea of peace. Each side is saying, well, we don't want peace. We just continue this war until if it goes on. And many people are happy because once that is happening, prices go up in so many ways and people are making more money. Much of the economy of the world is booming because of this war. So that the Quran is indicating to us that wealth and economic welfare can improve or destroy our personality and character. So we have to think of our own progress, not the bringing down of others in order to really enhance ourselves. So character improvement is through urging others. We remember that chapter of the Quran. وَالْأَصْرِ إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَفِي خُسْرٍ إِلَّا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالْحَقِّ وَتَوَاصَوْا بِالصَّبْرِ. People are at a loss in the world. If you do good, if you have confidence and you do good, if you believe and you do good, and belief is extremely important, as I will indicate in a few moments. You believe and you do good, you put things into effect, into practice, you find that you will, and you also urge people to patience and you also urge them to truth. So, character improvement, the Quran teaches us, is through urging others to truth and to loyalty and to building confidence, what we call iman, to build faith, to build confidence and active participation. That is amilus salihat, putting it into some form of practical effect. You look at when people are buying goods, you go to the grocery, you go to the supermarket, you go to the stores to buy something, an appliance, clothing, whatever it may be, you're a customer. Now, the strategy that the business people use in what is called marketing, how do they market this? Of course, they send you emails and they send you advertisements in order to encourage you to come to their business place. But the customer has to believe to buy. I believe this is what I want. I believe this is the right color. I believe this is the right size. I believe this is what I really need. I believe this is the right price. If it is not, we negotiate and try to get it at the best. So the sale is lost if the customer or the client believes in the product but does not buy it. So if you believe in something and say, I'm not going to buy it, the sale is lost. So faith alone is not enough unless action is followed by action. Unless a person can convince you, you like it, but they can't convince you to buy it. They can't convince you to put it into action and to put your money where your mouth is, as we say. On the other hand, the customer is also lost if they buy the product, but they don't believe in it. After they buy it, they say, it's fading out, it's ripping here and there, it's not the right size, it's too tight, it's, they make all the, so they don't believe, their trust in that particular product also is useless, its usefulness is not to their benefit. So they have they believe in it, but they are unable to, they want repairs, they can't get it done. There's no customer service, as the case may be. So the marketing strategy that business people use is to build faith in a product and to motivate action, to buy it into it and to be loyal to it. They must know if you buy it, something is wrong, we'll fix it for you. They give you that guarantee, they give you that faith and that confidence and that trust. And this is done through, as we know, by advertising the truth, not false advertising, which is condemned by everyone, and ensuring customer commitment after service repairs and after service. They give you maybe a month or two of free service, as the case may be. And so it is with Islam. Islam is a product. The teachings of Islam is a product, and Muhammad rallied his supporters through faith, through confidence. They had to believe in him, believe in the message that and follow through with action. And all the wealth that, this is something we need to look at. You know, when a person is applying for a job, they have what is called a resume. They look at their life, what I have achieved during my life in my education, my sports, my association with others and so on. And they have first lines and other lines as well, indicating who and what you are. We have to ask ourselves, what is the first line in our soul's resume? If we have a resume of our soul, what in fact will we put as a resume? What are our life's goals? They will ask you, what do you think you will be 5 years from now or so? What are your what do you hope to achieve in life? What we are capable of achieving in the way of Allah is a resume or spiritual resume. We need to develop a resume of our personality and character. Because all the wealth that we acquire, we cannot spend it. If you spend all the wealth that you acquire, then later on when you need it, for ill health, for retirement, for home care, etc., you will either have nothing, you will have very little, or you may become dependent on handouts from other people. But if we don't spend it, we can't lose it to others. We can lose it to others. People hoard up money and then they put it in the bank, and then the banks go broke, or they put it somewhere and robbers and thieves come and take it away and so on. And we lose the opportunity to spend some of that to build our personality and character. So not only do we lose what we have, a person may build a nice house and then a fire or hurricane comes. You see it so often in what we see called climate change. People build houses, hurricanes come and remove it, they say we lose everything. You see it on the news every day, or fire comes and burns down so many houses, wildfires as the case may be, or floods come and people, it destroys it. But because they build for themselves and say we lose everything, but do you really lose everything if you don't lose your personality and character? What they really lose is the opportunity to build their character as well as that of others. So the Quran is saying that whatever we have to look at it and realize a portion of it must be given to mosque, given to the Anshuman, given to individuals, as the case may be. Because the acquisition of property just becomes a costume, like a carnival costume, for the emptiness of the human personality when it lacks the opportunity for religious progress. So if a human being has nothing in their soul for religion, for God, for kindness, for caring for others, then all the wealth they have is just an empty float. It's just a costume that they have. You find it in today's world too. We look at, we depend upon what is called politics in democratic society. But you find in most countries of the world, perhaps even all countries of the world, I think I can safely say, that politics in a democratic country always require some kind of regime change. Why? Because politicians are always identified as failures and associated with corruption or favoring race or religion or rich persons. Every country of the world, when they have an election, they want a change. Why is that so? They want a different president, they want a different king or queen, they want a different prime minister and so on. Because, one of the things people do in all the countries of the world, they belittle. There are those in authority, there's corruption, there's a mismanagement and all of these things. That's the way of the world. So the Quran is showing here, and that may or may not be true, but the point is, this is what people do and think. And this chapter deals with that issue of how do you manage not only your wealth, but how do you look at the wealth of others as well, or those who are in charge of the wealth. So what effect has the acquisition of material possessions on your personality and character? If a person becomes a president or prime minister of a country or some prominent person, what are they doing it for? To help their people or to help themselves? To merely occupy status and enjoy the privileges of office, or to say, well, look, I am serving people, and go to each area and see what are the conditions that people are living at. This is the kind of leadership we saw in the time of Hazrat Umar. When he was the Khalifa, the ruler, someone came and told him there was an old woman who was there and she had nothing to give her children. So she would just put stones in a boiling water. It will give that bubbling sound. The child will think something is cooking. When he heard that, he took some flour and grain and so on, put it on his back, and he went with a servant. Someone said to him, oh, Omar, why are your servants sitting on a horse and you're walking to go to this? And he says, because the responsibility is mine. If that woman is suffering, starving, not the servant, he can sit on it, but I have to make sure I get this thing to her, and if I have to carry the load myself. I can't put it on other people, the burden on other people. So this is a kind of personality and character that Islam develops, and it's something that we need to see today in practice. Because we have to ask ourselves the question, what effect has the acquisition of material possessions on our personality and character? All that we have, what effect has it on my personality? How much will I do for my religion? How much will I do for my own self, my family, my own enjoyment? And how much will I do for my religion? We can measure the quantity of wealth we possess. You can know how much money you have in the bank. You can get an auditor. You can get an accountant and count up how much money you have. You can get a valuator, how much of your property is worth. But we never kind of assess the quantity of charity and generosity and love that our hearts possess. So we can count what we possess and put it down in pen and paper. But when it comes to our own ability to do for our religion and our Creator and our Anshuman and our Jamaat, we are unable to put it on paper. So we can assess our personal economic growth, but not our personal spiritual growth. That is what we have to focus on, because after all, we will leave everything in this world, and it is our spiritual growth and spiritual wealth that we'll be carrying into the next life. So what the world needs, therefore, is a system of accounting for spiritual development. And that is what Islam offers, and that is what we as members of the Ahmadiyya Anjuman are promoting. We want spiritual development, and a formula that we have discovered in the Quran that we want to present to the world as a formula for spiritual development. Because you look at it, people see profit sometimes in shortchanging people. but not in extending a helping hand. There's a difference. They will squeeze things out of people, try to get as much as they can from people. Taxes are always being raised. I was reflecting recently where the electric company had said, you know, the high amount of electricity usage because of the heat and climate change. Well, they must be making plenty of money, because the more people use electricity, the more money they will make. Yet they'll say, no, well, we have to increase now the rates for electricity. It doesn't make sense to me. If you are making more money, you have a product and you are making more money, then you should not be raising the rates. That means you're trying to squeeze more out of people. People are already suffering with the heat and so many things, but you want to take more out of them. So we live in a world in which it is called spin, humaza and lumaza. People bully, they put ideas in your mind to make you believe that what they are saying is true, but really they are misusing the ability of the wealth that they have in helping people. So that excellence in human character depends upon doing good to others, not on doing bad to them or finding fault with them. So often we find that persons of considerable, questionable character, and this is common in the world today. Whether you look in the royal families or wherever it is in the world, people of questionable character, sometimes abusers and so on, are considered great only because they possess wealth. We have seen so many people, religious people, wealthy people, producers, and so many others, you know, who are considered great people, but their character is questionable. And in this age of materialism, external possessions, unfortunately, is the criteria of greatness, rather than internal moral and spiritual conditions that a person possesses. So the choice is between using wealth to earn more wealth or to earn more goodness of character. What Allah has given me, can I use it to make myself a better human being, more charitable, more kind to my friends, my family, more forgiving, and all of these things. So spend it in the way of Allah is spending for the benefit of His creation. As we spend, we enhance not only our own charitable nature, our self-sacrifice, our kindness, our selflessness. Others appreciate us for what we give them rather than what we take for them. People appreciate you for what you give them rather than what you take for them. So prosperity is for the happiness of everyone, not only ourselves. When it is used for our own happiness, yes, but as well as for the happiness and welfare of others. So the worth of our possessions increases, but its value ultimately decreases or depreciates. Every accountant knows that. Whatever you have a motor car, whatever its value now will depreciate later on. Our purchasing power decreases. You save up money, but then that money becomes less valuable in time with devaluation, bringing about loss. Material value never lasts. Recession ultimately comes. You ask your parents and they'll tell you long ago they used to work for what, $2, $12, $14, $9 a week, and now $9 is just for maybe a biscuit or something you can buy, or bread becomes so expensive. When they could have feed their family with $9 or a little amount of that, and today we find it difficulty to do so. Because the real value in life is found in one's book of deeds. The book of deeds that we have, well, the Quran doesn't mention a book of deeds, but we metaphorically speak of our deeds as a book of deeds, and not in our bank book. So our possessions and our desires, the Quran is pointing out to us, are like a fire that can make us rise to great heights. We see so many rockets going to the moon or outer space. Why? Because of fire. Because of the jets that are there and fuel that is burned, the hydrogen or other fuel that are burnt to send them in space. So fire, that is there, our passions, our desire for nice things and having a good life. It's a good thing, it's created by Allah, the Quran says. But this fire can also consume our basic values and erode our character. And that's why the Quran is saying that that fire of passion that we have, which is ignited by selfishness, burns away the feelings of compassion for others, and it becomes what the Quran calls afida. Afida means roasted or burnt meat. You put meat on fire and burnt, there's no use whatsoever. So that fire within us can motivate us to acquire more and spend more in our skills and everything and do more, then it is good. But if it causes, burns us to the extent we just want, we don't want to spend, we want to keep everything for ourselves, you find that that will hamper our spiritual progress. We look at not only individuals, in the society in which we look at today, you will find that banks give away millions in charity or for advertisements. I see some of the cricket advertisements that the banks say, you get free tickets for the next game or the final game or whatever. I don't know if it includes the AFA or whatever it is. But they will not show sympathy to one who cannot pay their loan and will foreclose on them and even throw such person on the streets. So on the one hand, you're charitable, giving away money and prizes and so on. Fan of the match, you get the 1,000 US, as the case may be. But if a person can't pay their loan, they go out there. They and their family are out on the streets. Or if they can't pay their light bill, they just have children have to study in the dark. That's the kind of society we are faced with. This is the reality of life. So prosperity can bring heaven as well as it can bring hell, depending upon whether it's used for spending or for hoarding. So the Quran, the message of the Quran is don't laugh at others because we feel we are better than they, when in fact they may be better than us. We know the story of the boy who cried wolf. He would tell the farmers there that the wolf is coming, and they would want to protect their sheep. And then he says, he laughs at them and says, well, there's really no wolf, until one day the wolf came. And they ignored him, and the wolf instead attacked him rather than the farmers. In other words, he was destroyed by his own lies. He lied and said the wolf, and that destroyed him. And this is something that we have to be careful of. So the message of the Quran is quite simple, it's quite practical, but we have to open our minds to understand what is required of us with regards to the acquisition of wealth. And by wealth, I don't only mean money, I mean the skills that we have, the talent. Each and every one of us is special. Each and every one of us has something that we can offer in the way of Allah, for the cause of Islam, for the cause in order to develop our morality and our spirituality, our personality, and our character. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim. Wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikril hakim. Innahu ta'ala jawadun kareem. Malikun Rahufur Rahim. Alhamdulillah, nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina. May yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlilhu fala hadiya lahu. Wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma ansur man nasara deen Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam waj'alna minhum. Allahumma aghzul man khazala deen Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa la tarjalna minhum. I'd just like to make an announcement in that the Ahmadiyya Anjuman Isha'at Islam Incorporated of Trinidad and Tobago is having an Ahmadiyya caravan to Kunjal on the 30th of September to celebrate the Milad al-Nabi. And you'll be hearing more about that, but we just like to keep the date of the 30th of September. It's a Saturday, the last Saturday in this month. We'd like you to keep that open and free. And in the light of my khutbah, I think all of you have the health and strength to have it, will be able to make it to that venue to celebrate this very important event in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, his birth. Inna Allah ya'muru bil adli wal ihsani wa ita'i zil qurba wa yanha 'anil fahsha'i wal munkari wal baghi ya'izukum la'allakum tadhakkarun. Uzkurullaha yazkurkum wad'uhu yastajib lakum wa la dhikrullahi akbar.